are myself. I'm Tobey Oxholm, the Pardon Project. I've been an attorney in Pennsylvania since, oh God, before most of you were born, 1979. DaShawn Harrison's the Pardon Fellow in the Pardon Project of York County. They are the place where pardons for low-income folks are going. And I'm really indebted to so many people out there in York County. I'm up in Wayne County, way in the Northeast, where it is actually snowing right now. Janelle Black, whose title is Director of Legal Services and Advocacy for the York County Bar Association. 7 years she's been doing it. I think she's celebrating it yesterday or today. Victoria Connor, who is the CEO of the York County Bar Association and Bar Foundation, could not have done this without you. Alice-Ann Frost, the CEO of the program, It's All About Change. She is DaShawn's supervisor and is the nonprofit in the community that's really headed up the Pardon Project. Three more people you really ought to know about. Dan Burns, clerk of court, been essential to our project, opening it up, getting it rolling, making it easy for the coaches. And over in the DA's office, DA David Sunday, who's been terrific, and Tim Barker, the chief deputy, out of the park amazing. He's made almost every meeting, and he's incredibly enthusiastic about this. And I'm telling you about who all these people are because you have to get a sense that we're all coming together. This isn't a left or a right, a progressive or a regressive, a Republican or Democrat or rural and urban. It's none of that. Pardons are for people who have completed their sentences. They're your neighbors. They're out in the community doing the best they possibly can for themselves and their families. And we are not blaming anybody for anything, any choices. The sentence is done. And this is not about trying to get the conviction overturned or anything else. These are people trying to do their best for themselves, their families, and for you. So what is a pardon, right? What is it? It's an obliteration of the past. This is the words of the Supreme Court in 1895, repeated almost 100 years later, blotting out the very existence of the person's guilt, so that in the eye of the law, he's innocent as if he never committed the offense. Well, you're going to find out that even if the pardon occurs, it's still on the record. You have to go back to court and get it expunged. But at least you're getting it pardoned, which is forgiven. So in order to get through this process, a judge is the only one who can erase anything from a criminal record. It's called expungement. You have to go in, file a petition for expungement. Right now, they can do expungements of summary offenses, arrests that didn't end up in a conviction, all those charges. And if you're 70 years old and you've been good for 10 years, not get arrested, then you can go. And also, it being Pennsylvania, if you've been dead for 3 years, you can get a judge to expunge your record. Very helpful, I'm sure, for lots of people. Otherwise, if you have a misdemeanor or a felony, you can only get it expunged by the judge if the governor first gives you a pardon. And under our Constitution, you can only get to the governor through this thing called the Pennsylvania Board of Pardons. And that's a 5-member group. 2 of them are elected officials, and 3 are appointed by the governor with overlapping 6-year terms. Lieutenant Governor just changed in January. The Attorney General just changed in February, plus a victim advocate, a medical doctor, and a corrections expert. 6-year terms overlapping. That, for us lawyers, is the jury. It's for everybody. That's the jury. You've got to persuade them before you can get to the governor. And then, of course, you have to persuade the governor. If there's one thing you guys do before you fall asleep, write this down. May 17th through 18th, 9 to 4 p.m. Here's the URL. This is when the Board of Pardons holds their public hearings. You used to have to go to the Supreme Courtroom in Harrisburg. Thanks to the virus, they're now online, and they're continuing online. And this is the most amazing reality TV you'll ever see. It's not just for you. It's for clients. It's for the community. This is where you get to see the people who are asking for a second chance, and see the judges, the 5 members of the Board of Pardons, ask their questions. Okay, so now here's the ethical interlude for you lawyers out there needing your CLE credit, right? Okay, we all know 6.1, lawyers are supposed to do public interest legal service, pro bono publico, for the good of the public. This is not just good for the one person, it's good for the state. Our Secretary of Labor and Industry says we got too many people with criminal convictions we are destroying our workforce. We got to get beyond all this. And Pennsylvania has the third highest rate in the country of people with criminal offenses. What this means for you lawyers out there are lots of clients, lots of them, not just low income folks, the children of your CEO, of your most important client. Yeah. Okay. And it's Bono, good for the community. A 10-year study done by the Economy League, $17.5 million for the price of nothing, just staff time. Okay. And one of the things we've sent around is a link saying to send letters to the legislature. Please increase these folks' budget for the Board of Pardons because the backlog is huge. They've gone from 450 people applying in a year to 1,980 last year, thanks to guys like us and guys like you that'll be making this possible for low-income folks. This is really pro bono for lawyers. No entry, no procedures to learn, no evidence, no law, and no memos of law, no depositions, no hearings, no arguments. You're done in 2 to 3 hours. All we're asking you to do is fill out an application with somebody. This is perfect for the old guys like me, for the young guys coming up, for you criminal lawyers, mostly, but this is for IP lawyers, for transactional lawyers, for real estate lawyers, for metro. Anybody can do this stuff. You're going to see this yourself. So here are the ethics you got to know. If you don't know what you're doing, you got to be trained, okay? You have to do the necessary study. I'm guaranteeing you, this is all the necessary study you need to do. You can do limited legal services. We're only asking you to do one form. And that's okay. As long as there's no expectation beyond this, everybody is cool with that. And here's one you really need to know. A lawyer who provides non-legal services to a recipient that are not distinct from legal services is subject to the rules of professional conduct provision with respect to the provision of those services. Why am I saying that? It's because under the rules, we do not need to be lawyers in order to be pardon coaches. And that's for everybody on this call, not just the lawyers. Under the Board of Pardons regulations, you can be represented by a friend, a family member. You know, your wife, your brother, your sister, your best friend, anybody, because it's not limited. But when we lawyers do it, the capacity for the likelihood that the person that we're helping, when they come into our law firm, they're going to think of us as a lawyer, which is why this is an ethical reason for us to pay attention, right? So here it is for you guys doing CLE. First word, and it's not going to be up here forever. It's not going to be in the chat. The word is actually 2 words, pro bono. Pardons are bono, not just for individuals, but for families, communities, and the whole state. That's where we are. And with that, I really wanted to introduce DaShawn Harrison. He's the pardon coach for the Pardon Project of York County. And as you've seen, he's also working with the program, It's About Change. So DaShawn, what I'd like you to do is kind of uncloak yourself, if you haven't already. And I wanted to start asking you questions. Okay, so first of all, tell us about yourself. What are you doing these days? What are you doing for the program?
So I have 2 roles within it. First, good morning, everyone. Thank you guys for joining us. This is a major event for us all. It means a lot to me personally. I hold 2 roles in the program. I'm the youth outreach specialist and I'm the pardon fellow.
Okay, and we'll be talking about the pardon fellow in a minute. What does the youth outreach do?
We are basically a deterrent to keep kids out of the judicial system. Sorry about that.
Oh, that's okay. And before you took this job with the program, weren't you related to an organization called Trusted Messengers? Were you in that organization?
Yes, I was actually York's second credible messenger for about 6 months.
And what did that involve?
Gun violence. We combat gun violence as a credible messenger, and we deliver the message of we want you safe, alive, and free, to just decrease violence in our local neighborhoods and with kids, and to push them to a more productive lifestyle than what we see nowadays.
That's terrific work. And it goes hand in hand, obviously, with helping people who've gone through the system and now trying to get out of it finally. And aren't you a coach for a girls' basketball team too?
Yes. In 2020, I founded an organization called Impact Academy. It's an all-girls basketball organization, and we cater to the girls that go unnoticed. There's a lot of athletes that don't get the attention of your naturally gifted athletes. So we take those girls, we build skill, motivate and help them just be more confident about their craft.
Yeah, that's really awesome. Do you have kids yourself?
Yes, I have 4 kids, 17, 18 now. I'm sorry, 18, 16, 8, and 4.
All right. So you're sainted as well. And you're able
Yeah.
to do all this stuff in the community plus bring your kids up?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I remember the other day you said you couldn't talk to me because you had to pick the kids up at school. So I was pretty impressed
Right.
by that. I'm old enough now that I don't have to worry about grandkids.
Oh,
All right, so you're a credible messenger. You're involving in the pardon work. Do you have a criminal record yourself?
yes, I actually have 5 felonies. Um, they caused me to serve a total of almost 9 years, 8 years, 7 months in state penitentiary.
Okay, but before you tell me about that aspect of it, you're
Mhm.
you're a felon then, right?
Yes. Yeah,
What
I just
what
finished
what
parole. I'm going on 2 years of being off parole this coming February.
Good for you. All right. And what kind of ways have you been reminded ever since you've been out, reminded by society that you have a record?
Oh man, every way imaginable. I can give you some of the most impactful ways was, of course, was employment when I first came home. Then I went to school to be a child psychologist, and I ended up withdrawing because they told me I couldn't work in that field. So I accumulated debt. My record wouldn't allow me to work in that field. My housing has been an issue at times in my past. I man, cars, loans, business loans, every way imaginable, I've been affected.
If you didn't have a criminal record, what if you didn't have all this stuff with people telling you no, what would you be doing right now? And no offense to the program about change. I'm not trying to poach them, but what would you do?
I'd probably be a child psychologist without a doubt. That would be my dream job.
That's really terrific. All right. So now when were you convicted of crimes? How many years ago?
Mm. My very first one was 2003, and that was a small one. My second one, the one that got me to state penitentiary, 2005,
And what was that crime?
possession with intent to deliver and manufacture a controlled substance.
All right, so you were a dealer back then?
Yes.
When was the last time you dealt drugs?
October 13th, 2005. That to the day.
Yeah, right. Were you a user too?
Never.
Okay.
Never.
So
My
you didn't have,
parents,
go ahead.
yeah, my parents were users, so that was pretty much my introduction to the drug game was seeing my parents involved in drugs.
And how old were you in 2003?
19?
Okay. Had you been dealing before then?
Yeah, I started selling, well, I was only selling marijuana before that. But it was only to like my friends. I was like 14 when I started, but it was a progressive thing. Like I just kept moving up and moving up. The older I got, the deeper I got into it.
And how come you were selling?
And we were poor, honestly. I was raised by a single mom, 4 kids. My dad was in and out. My brother's dad was non-existent. My sister's dad was non-existent. So as I got older, it was like my thought process then was if I can take pressure off my mom from worrying about me, things will be better in the household, which ultimately didn't work out too well for me. But that was my logic as an adolescent man. That was my logic.
And that's not you today.
Oh nah, I wouldn't dare. Wouldn't dare.
All right, but all right. So I'll admit I asked you a trick question, DaShawn, at the beginning. I said you're a felon, right? And you said yes.
Hmm.
You're not. I mean, you got the felony record,
Hmm.
but you're not defined by that record. Look at what you're doing. Look what we just talked about.
So what defined what, and this part you guys may not understand. I've gotten so accustomed to hearing that I was a felon. It was almost like brainwash a little bit because it's so second nature to say it. That's how everyone's referred to me. Oh, you're a felon. And it just stuck over the years. Like, I don't personally define myself as that. I know I'm not that person from 20 years ago, but it's just I've gotten so used to hearing it.
You're dealing now with, that's an interesting verb to use. You're working now with other people who have criminal records as part of the Pardon Project and as a pardon coach.
Mhm.
Is the story you just told us like anything like the stories you're hearing from the people that you're out talking to about their criminal records?
All the time. And it honestly, me being in the position I'm in, gives them confidence to go through with this procedure. When I was incarcerated, we hear about pardons and expungements, but we don't think that it's obtainable. So for them to see someone who's gone through what they went through, who's lived that life, help them do it, it makes it easier. It gives them hope to do it.
And what's it been like for you to work with lawyers? I mean, given your experience of being convicted the first time around, what's it like working with lawyers now at the Bar Association?
It's eye-opening for sure. Um, and honestly, most people, I don't get judged at all by my past. Most people look at me and don't even know that I have felonies on my record. But it's not like working with a public defender if I'm on the criminal side. Like when you're dealing with actual lawyers and people that you are paying for services, or that those that genuinely want to help, they actually see you as the person. So it's nice to be viewed as just DaShawn, the man that's in front of you today, than DaShawn, the criminal that needs your services, or however,
Well, the honest thing is, Sean,
Mhm.
I don't know what it's like because I grew up white privileged in the suburbs of Philadelphia. And when I got arrested, the worst thing that happened to me was they had to call my father in from the golf course, and he was really pissed at me, and I got grounded. So the thing I've learned from meeting folks like you around the state is just how amazingly resilient people have to be when they've gone into the criminal justice system and come out, and just like you are told no. No matter what you want to do, the answer is no, you have a criminal record.
Right.
And I put on the screen something most folks probably don't know this, but there are 30, 40 careers where you have to get your license from the state occupational license board. And this is just a list of them. I mean, I didn't even know what a cosmetologist was. I thought it was somebody who studied the cosmos. What did I know? It's a hair braider. And
Mhm.
you might ask, well, why does a hair braider have to get a license? It doesn't matter. They do. But look at the ones in red. Those are the ones we've learned as a result of COVID are really critical to our society. Healthcare, home care, child care, elder care. It's any job having routine interaction with children. Oh my God, we can't get to work without folks like that. But if they can't get the job, we're
Mhm.
shooting ourselves, right? We need
Yeah.
as many people in that area as possible. And the good news in all of this is when you get before this board of pardons, this gang of five, over 85% of the people are being recommended to the governor. And the last governor approved 99% of them. Why? He's not letting people out of prison. He's not shortening their terms, second guessing judges. He is helping people who've been helping themselves and doing the best they can, and they're your neighbors. That's why it's 99%. And the courts are expunging 100%. Why? Because they don't have any discretion. The Supreme Court has already held because it blots out any existence of the fact. Well, if they blotted it out, obviously it doesn't exist. So, of course, they have to expunge. It's a second process, and we hope this year to have an automatic expungement bill introduced and passed by the General Assembly. But that's why you bother. That's why this is important. Now, who makes it through the process? There's no rules. A mass murderer can apply for pardon from prison. They're not going to get it. No chances at all. We've watched thousands of votes, and the best candidates are the ones I'm going to talk about now. And these are the candidates that have already been written into the eligibility standards criteria for the pardon project of York County and most of the pardon projects around the state. Every county sets their own, and we have probably 15, 16 counties now that have these. And these groups come together, the DA and the PD and the Bar Association, the judges and the clerks and the volunteers and the peer review, peer specialists, they all come together and they say, all right, who do we want to help? And we set it for who's likely to succeed, because you don't want to inflate expectations. So here they are. They completed their sentence 5 or more years ago. 10 years if the crime was really yucky, sex, violence, abuse of kids. If it was drugs, you have to pretty much show it was 7 years that you've been clean and sober. If there was a victim, restitution has to be paid to the victim. Sometimes there are costs and fees owed to the court and fines. The board wants to see that you're making progress towards that. They want to see if there are reasons for staying crime-free. Listen to DaShawn. I want to do this. I can't get into this field if I have this conviction. Let me pursue my field. Perfect reason. Just being a good dad, being a good mom at home is a perfectly good reason. No open cases. You can't be, with a warrant out there for you. You can't get arrested during this process. This is encouragement for people not to get arrested or do bad stuff. You can't have a worse crime in any other state or the federal system, because the board will just say, you got a rape charge, rape conviction over in Ohio, clean that up first before we deal with your shoplifting or dealing drugs here. And a record of community service. How interesting is that? You won't find that written anywhere. But in the past board, up until December, 2 of the 5 judges were really interested in, what have you done for us recently? You paid your fine, you've done your time, that's fine. What else? You heard us. How have you given back? So they're looking for people to go out and do other things. A lot of our clients who are low income don't have time. They're running 2 or 3 jobs. They're taking care of kids at home. Their lives are frantic. Still have to do something. So if it's toys for tots at Christmas time, or turkey distributions at Thanksgiving, or doing something, if they've never done anything, we send them to United Way or the Salvation Army or their church, mosque, or synagogue. There's some powerful letters that have come in from imams and rabbis to people, to the Board of Pardons, saying, this is a good person. This is what he or she is doing in our congregation. And we are all behind her in getting a second. That's a powerful letter. And it doesn't mean the individual has to say, hey, trust me, I'm a good guy. No, this is being validated by other people. And as DaShawn was talking about, you get a couple of those letters, you get certificates, diplomas, a letter of reference from your employer, and you're not a felon checking a box anymore. You got a resume builder, right, DaShawn? We were just talking about this. You're helping people create an alternative definition for themselves, right?
Yes, indeed. I think that's the most powerful part of it. Getting to know, a lot of us are judged by who we were in the past, but if you get to know the person of today, you'll see that the past brought you that person for today.
Really true. So for all of you who are going to be pardon coaches, I think the most important thing that we do in helping somebody apply is listen. Listen, ask, find out who they are, what's going on in their lives. Kind of like the questions I was asking DaShawn at the beginning of this. Tell me who you are. How has this criminal past hurt you? What can we do to help you? Here's how you can increase your likelihood of success. That's what pardon coaching is. Because after their application is in, there's no more representation going on unless you want to help them in the process. And here is the process. Application, you get it online. You print it out. Actually, we've sent you around the fillable PDF that we created and the board's accepting it, but otherwise you have to mail it in the form, and you have to get underlying records from the court. I'll show you what they are. When it gets filed by the Board of Pardons, they send a letter out to the local DA and the court saying, hey, this guy has applied for a pardon. Here's the pardon application. You have anything you want to say about it? Happens all the time, which is one of the reasons we want to know from the very beginning if the DA is going to say, never. Or, yeah, possible. Because at the end, what we want to say is from the DA, I'm in favor of this guy, because the DA is in favor really goes much faster. Same thing with the court. They also send the application to the Department of Corrections, and it's been going to probation and parole. That's what it used to be called, but you get a parole or probation auditor. Right now, it's taken 2 years to get there. 2 years. Why? Because the staff of the Board of Pardons is too small. So again, fill out that form, send the letters. Come on, we need more people, and they're processing these forms. Anyway, it goes to the parole agent. He contacts the victim. He contacts the employer. He contacts the court. It's the government. They contact whoever they want, right? They can go to your bank, whatever. And they send a 2-page list of stuff they want from you. And of course, they interview the candidate, the applicant. Usually it's 1-to-1. You're not on that call. Lawyers are not on that call. So maybe we can prep them. We can help get them ready, but it's not like a deposition where you're sitting there next to them and, kicking them under the table, telling them, wait a second, I got no objections. Then this auditor creates a summary, sends it into the board. The board looks at it. They schedule what's called a merit review. And that's the time when, in public, usually it's by a conference call, they go down the list one by one, all 5, and vote, does this person merit a public hearing that the Constitution requires before we can refer to the governor? 2 votes. 2 votes is all you need to get a public hearing. And remember, 87% chance of getting to the governor after that. So all you're trying to do is persuade 2 people. Goes to the public hearing, and the vote, you need 3 votes at the public hearing to get to the governor. Now, remember, this is not murderers. It's not people in prison. It's not commutations. This is pardons. 3 votes to get to the governor, and then the governor gets to decide. It's only those steps. And at the hearing, lawyers don't talk. So even if you kept representing this person all the way to the end, the most we'd be doing is getting them warmed up and ready to go so they testify well on Zoom. So the job of the pardon code, just help them get 2 votes. I mean, really, how simple can that be, right? And it's by filling out the application so that the parole auditor knows from the start what this person's story is, told the best way it can be told, in the words and in the manner, in the voice of the client. It's got to come from the client. They don't have to type it. They don't have to write it. You can do that. But it's their language. It's their sentence structure. They have to sign off on this because they're going to be asked questions about it by the parole agent and at the hearing when you're not allowed to say anything. And if the voice on the paper is different from the voice they're hearing, somebody's trying to pull something over on a fast one. So that's what we're trying to do, help get 2 votes. Now, here's the paperwork I told you about. The board says right there on so many places, don't send this in. And I don't want copies of dockets. This doesn't do us any good. We want 5 things from the record of the court at the time. Criminal complaint, affidavit of probable cause, criminal information indictment, final plea or verdict, sentencing order. I'm a civil lawyer. I didn't know what these things, I don't even know the difference between an affidavit and information, right? I mean, you don't need to. The clerks know that. You have to ask for them nicely. And I'm really proud to say that the Pennsylvania State Association of the Prothonotarians and Clerks of Court, which are all 67 counties, they're really in favor of pardon projects. For many of them, we just have a form you send in by email with the applicant's release. We say, please give us these documents we need. And it comes back to us in a PDF. DaShawn will be doing that. We have wonderful relationships with Dan Burns and his court. When DaShawn sends it in, he gets the documents back in a couple days. And then he gives it to the pardon coach. If you're not working with a pardon project, though, you have to do this yourself. Individuals can go get these. We just need to give them a piece of paper to say, this is what you asked for. The last thing on there, proof of payment of financial obligations. If you're convicted, you are immediately taxed court costs and fees. Who knew, right? Even if you're being represented by a public defender or a court-appointed counsel, they sock you with thousands of dollars of costs, then maybe a fine if you violated something, and maybe restitution to a victim. Those are legal financial obligations. And the court wants to know you've been trying to pay them off. Most of our clients got socked with this stuff when they were convicted, haven't thought about it again. So there are ways you can go to court and ask for a waiver. And the Pardon Project of your county and all the pardon projects have a form now. They will tomorrow when I send it out. That is the form motion for that because the law changed in November, effective March, that courts can now waive all court costs, fees, and fines, not restitutions for victims. But if you're indigent, you can get that waived. And that's really important for the Board of Pardons. They want to look at this. The other thing is They get to see the way the DA was talking about this guy at the time they were arrested. So if the individual is saying, hey, I was minding my own business, so the cop came up, put his hand in my pocket, came out with a baggie and said, huh, where's this from? And the record documents from the DA show that this guy was dealing for a long time. That's the end. Honesty is the most important thing. 1,000% honest and transparent. If they think you're trying to sneak one by them, you are done. So the second word, wait a second, I'm not going to tell you that. Oh, we have to wait for that. You're not allowed to see that. Sorry. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to look at the form itself. Wait a second. I can find this, please. Okay, here it is. This is an application for the clemency, and all of you will have thought, "Oh my God, when am I going to get to see this form? There's not enough time left. There's only 25 minutes." 15 minutes, you're going to be a master of this universe. I promise. Trust me. I'm a lawyer. Trust me. So we have, this is really easy. No laughing out loud. That's wrong. You have to ask the type of clemency. On the left, you want to check the pardon. But on the right-hand side, if your only crime was nonviolent marijuana or paraphernalia, it's a fast track. So check that one. If you have other crimes and a marijuana crime, you can't check it. If your only crime was marijuana or paraphernalia, check it. You then go through all these different forms and you're answering things. Secret, fill out every box. Every box. Because if you leave out middle name, and it gets to the board, they're going to wonder, all right, does the guy have a middle name? And there are lots of people, you'd be surprised, have the same name. So any box at all that is not applicable, you type in not applicable. And that goes down to the name of institution, right? It's not where DaShawn was spending time. It's whether he is today. And it isn't whether he remembers his inmate number. It's not there, or the parole number. Well, he has one right now. But when he's applying, that's going to be NA. Okay? Fill in everything. Nothing is over here on the left. The Pardon Project of York County has to decide whether or not it wants information about itself on here. In Philadelphia, we do. We check self, right? And then he can list his sister, brother, work best friend, whatever, parents, or he can do an attorney. And what we have over here is you can write the name of your sister, your brother, or whatever as a backup. Remember what's going to happen. This is going to go out there. It's going to sit for 2 years. And then the parole agent is going to try to reach you. And if the person has moved, changed phone numbers, changed your Gmail account, and the person can't reach you, how long do you think the parole office is going to spend trying to find the person? There is an answer. Not. They're going to move to the next one. So the whole idea, this representative can also be a backup, somebody to reach if they can't reach you. And down at the bottom, we would write Philadelphia Lawyers for Social Equity. And among the other things we would write is, we'd write info@pulsephilly.org as a backup for us. And this allows us to write to the boards and say, what's the status of this? But you can also add somebody else's in there. So that's what we would recommend. I think that's what York County is doing, but I'm working with 15 counties, so I may have forgotten. Anyway, ask them when you get the client. The next thing, convictions for which clemency is requested. We're now on page 2. And it says at the top, oldest case. Okay, they want them in reverse cron or cron order, right? And I'm just going to look ahead a little bit. Next page is case 2. Next one is case 3. There's a case blank. You can be convicted of as many crimes as you want. I mean, you don't get credit for putting in for 3 out of 5 because either you've turned the corner or you haven't. So this is all or nothing for the applicant, which means take as many pages as you like, but make sure you're listing every conviction there is. It asks for the offense date, the OTN number, and the offense. Okay, well, on the right-hand side, it says, right, they're now going to take care of the sentences and whether it was a felony or a misdemeanor and whether it was sealed. On the offense, most of this is going to be public information. If you're working with York County, you'll have this information because they'll give it to you in the paperwork from the prothonotary. But if you haven't, let me see if I can find it. Okay, this is the online way that you can check the criminal records of anybody you want. Anybody. Friends at the office, other people you work with, your neighbors, whatever. And all you need to do is search by a participant name. You click on it. You come down and talk about the participant's name and the docket type, which will be criminal. And I'm going to use the name of someone who has given me permission to do this, Evan Figueroa Vargas. And Evan. And watch this. We'll search and we'll time it to see how long it takes for this. All right, 1 minute, 1 second. Sorry, 1 second. Here is Evan's criminal record. It was in common pleas court and in the municipal court in Philadelphia. Over on the right-hand side, you have a D and a Greek, a Parthenon building. That's the court summary. So you click on it, and you'll find out exactly what the record is. So here's Evan's name. Here's Figueroa Vargas, the date of birth. This is all public, remember? This isn't confidential. This is on the web. And you find out he was doing firearms. And let's see what else he had here. He got probation for it. Criminal mischief, recklessly property damage, firearms. All right, so he's carrying guns. Recklessly endangering. Okay. DUI with a controlled substance. He was impaired. Okay. He's got intentional. All right. So this guy is a drug dealing, gun toting criminal. Now, imagine HR. How long are they going to spend looking at this applicant before they move to the next one? Yeah, right. He doesn't have a chance. They would see that these things dated back to 2007. And what they have on it is this thing up here in the upper right, the OTN. It's the offense tracking number. So when you have that, you go back to, wait a second, let's see if I do this right. Wait, I'm old, forgive me. OTN, there it is. We copy it. We'll come back over here to the new share. We'll come over here, and with any luck at all, we'll hit the OTN. We'll print it. Ta-da! Okay, 70, and I've mastered this stuff. That means you can too. So that's the offense. That's the OTN number. Then you go back to, wait a second. We go, well, let me see. It's easier to go back to here, and you copy. Wait a second. There we go. We copy the F3, which means it's a felony 3, and then we go back to the paperwork, and we put the first one in there. Ta-da! Now, you don't want to keep it so small because you'll make the people go blind reading it, so you'll have to increase the size, and I'm going to leave you to do that because I'm not a good teacher. The offense state is a little bit more buried in the file, but let me just show you what there is. The offense states first start with, here's the arrest date, which is not exactly the same, right? So you go back to the case search and you go over to the D, which stands for docket, and you open the docket of the case, and with any luck, it opens. Yes, there it is. It has the arrest date, and then it has the complaint date, and then it has a lot of dates. Let's see if we can find it still. Bail forfeiture, date of birth. Man, where is it? Offense date. Here we go. Right here, you have to look for offense date, and it will be there. So you just take this, you right click, you go back to the other form. You've done this. You come over here. Well, I can't do it because it was not one. It's too small, but you get the idea, right? This is so easy. A 70-year-old who hates technology and breaks everything can do it, and you haven't even seen the client yet, right? You can do this all without the client. Where you need the client is this next thing. Describe the incident and how you were involved. Where were you? What'd you do? And how were you caught? Okay. DaShawn, how were you caught?
Oh, I got set up. Yeah, I got set up, but the way they did it, you want the specifics of how I got caught or just
That's exactly what I wanted you to say.
got you.
What do you know what they want? What do I know what they want?
Right.
Right? Do they want to know just this one time, or they want to know the history of how you got set up? Do they want just that one day I was out in the corner, I made a deal and it turned out it was an agent? Or do they want to know I was set up, I had been dealing for a long time, whatever? Okay? You don't know. And most people looking at this who are afraid of the criminal justice system, or at least wary of it from having watched TV, should they be admitting to other crimes they weren't convicted of? All right, so this may be a really tough thing for people to write about. And DaShawn, with the folks you're working with, how good are they about writing essays or answers to questions like this?
They don't want to. And this is just honestly speaking, even with myself, until I was actually aware of the process, I'm not full disclosure with anything. It's a need to know basis. But if they know that and they're reassured that this is not something that you're being charged with, I think they'll be more likely to do it. But just if we just pull them in, you need to tell your story of how you got caught, we'll get minimum. We'll get the bare minimum. Guarantee you.
All right, and here's what's going on behind the scenes. This is a vestige of pardons as being religious. So think about whatever your faith is, imagine this, going into the confessional and saying, "Forgive me, Father, for I got set up. I was screwed. I didn't do it." You're going to get pardoned by the guy behind the screen? No. This is where the board is looking for the applicant to own up, to own what they did. If they're going to pass it off for somebody else, you get 3 strikes against you. You may still get the 2 votes, but it's going to be really hard. Because on this one, they want to know that you admit doing what you did. Now, there are a couple of challenges to that. What happens if you were higher than a kite because you were on drugs or alcohol? Right there. I was higher than a kite. I have no idea what I was doing at the time. I was, addicted. I don't know. Which, as we lawyers would know, is you're setting up the defense in answering this question. And then you go ahead and say what you did. It was 22 years ago. I honestly don't remember everything. All I remember is, okay, it's 22 years ago. You may not remember everything. Because remember, the board is going to cross-check this against what the criminal law papers are in the file. And it's not up to you to write into this what all the criminal law papers in this file say, because the client's got to be able to testify speaking to the board about what he did at the time. And if the client doesn't remember, you're writing in here what the police said is going to set your client up for failure. So you have to write in what the client says. And remember, there's some ethical rules in there that say, look, you got to watch out for clients who, may not be fully with it. They got other things in there for, if they're mentally whatever. I'm telling you that in this circumstance, most of the clients won't know what to do, and they're going to be asking you to help them decide. So keep in the back of your mind, 100,000% honest, right? Full open. Down at the bottom, there is a box. Check this box if you are attaching more. And there's an official page. None of this white bond stuff, printing up. No. User form. Never check that box. It does you no good to argue more than just a couple things about how they actually got arrested that day. Not the past, not the story, none of the stuff DaShawn was talking about. How did you come to get arrested that day? I was at the corner of this street. I paid some guy for some drugs, or I sold some drugs, and it turned out it was a police officer. Okay. What happens if he didn't do it? What happens if he didn't do it? Our ethical rules say you can't make the guy lie here. What happens if he pled guilty and he said, yeah, he did it? Did he plead guilty and say he did it again? That's not true. And we can't encourage that. So we want them to say how they came to be at the wrong place, at the wrong time, with the wrong people. And then they got arrested. And I'm telling you, the longer ago in time it was, the more that story is going to be acceptable. If it was last week and, you pled guilty for punching the guy really hard in the face lots of times and you didn't really do it, you're going to have a hard time explaining why you don't remember all that stuff. Yeah. But there was a scuffle and I got arrested 20 years ago. Nothing since then. Who cares, right? They have to own what they did. That's the trick here. That's what's going on behind the scenes. Down at the bottom, it has different things that the board is going to be looking at. This is what takes them time to get done. And there's nothing we can do to help them. They check it out before they send it to the correct Department of Corrections. Then we come up to what's called section 4, optional personal statement. And this is basically says, all right, tell us why you think you deserve a pardon. DaShawn, if you didn't know what you know, right? And you had this form and you saw section 4 with an optional personal statement, what would your reaction be?
If I didn't know,
Yeah.
oh, I'm done. I've finished my.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't
Right.
say.
Sorry, go ahead.
I wouldn't say anything else. If you're giving me the option, I probably wouldn't say anything.
Yeah. And doesn't that make sense? If you've grown up watching TV where whatever you say can and will be used against you. So the smart person would never fill out this page, ever, unless they knew what was going on behind the scenes. This is the only page that matters. This is where your client, your friend, the person you're coaching gets to tell their story. You heard DaShawn's story. He started dealing marijuana when he was 14. He lived in a household where using was acceptable. He progressed through and he was doing all this time. He got caught a couple times. And the last time he's sold drugs is this. He's out today. He's a father of 4. He's a successful man. He's got a job working with lawyers and the program It's About Change. He wants to go on and become a professional in the health services, and he can't because of his criminal record that's holding him back. I rest my case. Right? That's your closing argument. Lawyers who litigate know this. Anyone else who's involved in corporate, you're building the story. You're including the different elements. You're making sure that the paperwork has the complete recitation of what the deal is. This is the deal. And down at the bottom of this page, it says, check this box if you're attaching a section 4. Check it. There's a form. You go down there and you say page whatever. Tell the story, because this is what the parole agent reads first. This is what's going to make, if you can set the stage, all of us in law, when we negotiate, we're taught first year law school, I think, but it's too long ago to remember for me. You negotiate off your document. Isn't that like a primary rule we lawyers have? I write it, you edit what I wrote. That's this. This is what has the greatest impact on the parole auditor and on the Board of Pardons. This is where we, as storytellers, can help get the story out about this life that we're helping, right? And this can go on for paragraphs. And DaShawn, again, how easy is it for the folks you're dealing with who you know have criminal records, who you've talked to in the past? How would they feel about writing a page or two about their story?
Probably not too confident. Once you actually sit them down and explain to them the why, the confidence will grow. But initially, if we just told them they had to do it, again, it wouldn't get done. We probably wouldn't see too many of these get through.
Yeah. So coaches, if you get this form, you get a client assigned to you, don't send this form out and say, fill it out and then we'll talk. Because you'll never get the guy to return your call. And when you start coaching, don't start on page 1, section 1. That's what a bureaucrat would do. Don't start with, so tell me about this crime you did. That's not who they are. Start out how I started talking with DaShawn. What are you doing today? What brings you in? Why do you need a pardon? What's going on in your life? How can I help you? That's what lawyers do. And everybody on this call is on this call because you want to help other people. So start with section 4, not 1, 2, or 3. Find out what's going on with their life. Encourage them. Oh, really? You have a good relationship with your boss? Do you think he'd write a letter of recommendation? A lot of our clients have never seen one. You may have to help write it. You may have to tell them what's in there. I've worked with 2 imams suggesting with the person who's a member of the congregation there, what kinds of things could go in a letter. And the letter the imam produced was unbelievably glowing. The woman had committed her crimes 22 years ago, but she was really active in her community, doing lots of stuff that matter. And the imam was terrific about writing about that. That's a powerful letter because, again, it's not me or DaShawn writing about ourselves. It's somebody else saying why this is a valuable member of our community. And all of us here Hope that she'll be given the second chance soon, which is the way that letter ended, which I thought was really powerful. So if you're collecting these things, they can go into the personal statement. The client doesn't have to write, and I'm a really good guy and I do a lot of work at my mosque. No, just say, I've been a member of this community for a really long time, and I have a letter from the imam. Okay, that's great. Section 4 is the most critical place. It's a lot of blank space. You can write in anything you want. Do a Word document, copy and paste it. You may have to work a little bit with the margins, but other than that. Now we go on to section 5. There is no section 5. Believe it or not, you are done. What is on this page is the warning. This is the whatever you say can and will be used again. This is, you're making statements to a government office. Please, these are perjury. It's the same verification language litigators have been using forever, 4904. That's really not what this is. This is your chance. This is basically the government saying, tell the truth or you're an idiot. Because if you're not telling the truth and not being full in telling the story and you're trying to hide something, somebody's going to sniff it out. This is the attorney general. She has friends, right? She has lots of files. And if they think you're trying to pull a fast one, you lose. This is your chance to be truthful and accurate. That's the reminder you give to the client. Whatever the client puts in there, the client puts in there. Us lawyers know it's not our job to write something for them, and that's not ethical. So the clients have to make the choice, but they have to be reminded that if they're trying to dodge something, it's just not going to work. I had a client who just didn't want to talk about what happened. She had been convicted of, I don't know what it was, negligent, this, that, or the other. She had slashed somebody. Yeah, in her kitchen, her boyfriend of 2 years had his hands on her throat and was strangling her. She put her hand back, grabbed a knife, and knifed him. He didn't die, but it was significant cuts. She didn't want to talk about it. She's still traumatized by it. How do we help somebody like that through this process? By offering them hope to get through it. And DaShawn, you probably heard stories just like this from other people who have had really bad things. They've had to make bad choices. They've had to do bad things in a different life, and they're just not there anymore. Right? Isn't that the kind of person that you're seeing?
Yeah, all different types, honestly.
All different types.
Yeah, I've seen so many different types of cases and charges come through. Yeah.
And you get to understand, how come you were doing this? You find out why they were doing it and why they're not doing it anymore. The next page after this, here, if you're going to be the lawyer, you can sign. A pardon coach can sign. And you just say, pardon coach so-and-so by, you write your name, Tobey Oxholm, pardon coach. That works. But if it's not signed by the client, it has to be at some point because they won't file it. They're going to hold it and they're going to investigate it, but they're not going to file it until the applicant, him or herself, signs it. Okay? One caveat. If you are representing the person and you put your name on the first page as their lawyer, you check the attorney box, you put in your lawyer information, you can sign right there for them and the applicant doesn't have to. My advice, get the client to sign anyway. This is a reminder to the client, this is really serious. This is a formal document. This represents your chance for really hope and second chances in a new life. It's a formal thing. So my suggestion is the gravity of the situation, if you can, get the applicant to sign. The last page is just the instructions. And while it says here, you have to get the court documents, we've talked about that, completed and signed application, duh. Here's the optional stuff, the certificates, diplomas, recommendation letters, supporting documents. Here's what I'd recommend. If the client can get a couple, wait a few days, a week to get them. Otherwise, send it in. Get in line. The thing that'll happen is after it's received, whoever the person's emails are on the first page will get an email back from the Board of Pardons saying, we have received your application. It is Board of Pardons application number, and they'll give you a number. After that, you can email anything else to bopclemency@pa.gov. bopclemency@pa.gov, and say attached is additional information for BOP application number and their name. Really easy. 2 years ago, you couldn't do this, right? But now they're doing the email thing, and it's so easy. And you can supplement it as many times as you want up until the time of the interview with the parole agent. And that could be 2 years. And so what that says is the last bit of advice you're giving to the person you're helping is, this is not the end. This is the beginning. You have 2 years now to keep showing this board and this community that you deserve full citizenship again. Anytime that happens good, let us know. Anytime that you're turned down for something because of your record, let us know. We're going to send all that stuff in and keep building up your case for why this is the time it's right to give you your pardon. And then on the side, it says keep a copy of everything, keep a PDF, make an electronic copy, send it to the Pardon Project of York County so that they know they have it. And so that in 2 years, the client, when they come back saying, I just got this letter from the Department of Corrections, can you help me? I can't even find my application. You say, sure, you got your application. You want a coach to help you get ready for it? Yeah. Okay. And we can, 2 years, we can coach them. So that's what that is. And so in terms of what we're doing, we're really just going forward and we're getting it done. And here is the last CLE word for all you lawyers out there. I snuck it to you in advance. I didn't mean to. And actually, DaShawn said it. We're giving them hope, right? Something that they're not used to having gone through the criminal justice system. So I don't know if there are any, I think I'm done. Yeah, more information. I sent you a boatload of information. Has any question come in the chat? There's a whole bunch of chats in there. Anything in there in chat? Claudia, is there anything I ought to be paying attention to? Well, I can't tell you the code words. That's not, well, you decide out there. Pardon Project needs pardon coaches. Yes, we do. Current duration of the process, start to finish, is 4 years each. No, it's been taking about 1.5 years between receipt and filing. Honest to God, from the left side of the desk to the right side, 1.5 years. Then it takes about 2 years to get it through the Department of Corrections. So right now it's about 3.5 years, 2 years after it's been filed. But the board is really working on ways to accelerate it. Marijuana is about 1 year, 1.25 years, and they're looking for other things they're trying to accelerate. All right, so that's what it is. I didn't see any codes. Sorry, Pete. I didn't share the code words. Yes, I did. I shared one. There's the second one. Don't forget the second. See, I got it. Second word. You're welcome. I think I got everything. Is there any? But wait a second. What would be the best way I can help my clients with the pardon process at the time they would be eligible to apply? All right. So I went through the eligibility. You want to make sure that they've got their addiction under control. They've been clean and sober for at least 5 years before they apply, and they're going to be 7 years by the time they have their hearing. Is there anyone with? Oh my God! It's 1 o'clock. All right. So I'm going to ask DaShawn for his last comments, if you would. I will stay on afterwards and continue asking individual questions. I'll answer the question about duration again, but since we're at the end of the hour, DaShawn, last words.
My last words would be this. If you're signing on to be a pardon coach, take it seriously. And I say that because have seen a lot in my days. I've gone through a lot. I've helped a lot. But if we want to change the nature of our communities with the kids and the violence, we need to get these parents to show them a more productive life, that you can go through life, you can make mistakes, and you can overcome it. So these things are very important. They're important to me personally. They're important to my community. And they should be important to your community as well. So if you're getting involved, just take it serious. And this is a way to start rebuilding our community holistically.
Wonderful. Honestly, I'm not going to say anything more than that. So we can end the CLE program at this point. I really want to thank again the Bar Association for hosting this, for all the community organizations for getting the word out, sharing it. We have people from Somerset County, Lehigh County, Northampton County watching because they're thinking about starting up or they're in the first stages of their pardon projects. This is a statewide effort. Pennsylvania is leading pardon reform in the country. You're on the cutting edge. There's no program anywhere like this anywhere else. Thank you very much for all the work you're doing and the optimism and hope you're giving to families in your community about being better for themselves, their families, and their neighbors.